I guess this might have been overused, but the mists are clearing now with Pandaria. It's about to get out there, and we've caught up with Chris here in Stockholm for the launch event, and you're the art director. Obviously, my first question would be sort of when you sat down first with the concept and sort of wanted to marriage World of Warcraft aesthetics with the sort of Eastern flavor that Pandaria brings, what was the first things that came to mind?
So certainly, you know, Samwise Didier's original concepts were our original source of inspiration. However, he worked primarily on, you know, the figure of the Pandaren and what the actual race looked like, and not a lot of what the world looked like. So when we started talking about like, well, this is gonna be the first time that we sort of delve into this Asian culture, right? We've seen it a little bit with the Night Elves. We see it here and there. We have katanas in the game and certain pieces like outfits, but certainly not like whole lands and things that are inspired primarily by this. So we had the sort of original, or what was nice about it was that it was you know, strangers in a foreign land. We were just outsiders looking in on this beautiful history of architecture and style and everything. And so primarily what we wanted to do was just stay respectful to any one of the cultures that we were going to be investigating and exploring, while not necessarily honing in on one single one. So we really wanted to think about it as just kind of like our take on what that culture is, what all those cultures are. And using that, obviously there's a ton of reference out there, so we just started going out and picking pieces here and there that we thought were really cool, like this temple is really awesome, or you know, this artwork style on this poster or whatever. Had this crazy wealth of pictures and things that we drew from, and then ultimately started narrowing it down, doing some concepts. One of the, actually you can see it in this poster, this kind of background, is sort of the original mountain style that we always pictured when we thought about those, you know, mist-shrouded mountains that you're going to see appear out of nowhere. And a lot of that stuff has been illustrated in the past with like the sume brush ink style. So we actually had an artist go through and do some concepts with that, just kind of exploring like, what if we tried something very different with our environments, and just as a springboard, right? Like, let's get these ideas out, let's start thinking about it. From there, polished those concepts, brought in a few more real-world examples, and found that balance and ran with it.
So I can imagine that it's kind of a exciting thing as an art director to get to do something that's so different from sort of your typical sources of inspiration in a game like this. Yeah,
definitely. Inspirational and a little overwhelming at times, because there is a responsibility that comes with making sure that we're doing it the right way and that we're being respectful to the cultures in question. But yeah, it was kind of an opportunity. Like we had the whole original vanilla WoW style, and then we took that journey into space and did the high concept thing, and then brought it back down to the roots and did the dark fantasy for Wrath of the Lich King. Went through Cataclysm, and it was all, you know, crazy death around every corner and destruction and threat and the heavy weight of that. So going into this, we really felt like let's give people a breather. We wanted a breather, right? As an art team, we wanted that ability to go in and just go, let's make something that's not end of the world doom and destruction, you know, like something. What if it's just a beautiful forest, or a crazy, you know, Krasserang Wilds, like this crazy swamp forest that we've never really seen before. So for myself, it was gratifying and extremely awesome, but for the team in general, we were just really stoked to kind of take that new look and approach on this stuff.
So speaking of some of the areas there, is there anything that you're particularly proud of that you managed to pull off?
Yeah, I just mentioned Krasserang Wilds, and that was, I think that's a good one to point to, because it was a good combination of sort of some of the new technologies that we've incorporated this time around. Every expansion we try to introduce a few new technical things, like the water, for instance, where it has a broad range change. You know, you can see it happen in a lot of different areas, and it has an effect on the entire world. So Krasserang Wilds was sort of the opportunity we had to introduce. We have new scalable tile textures that have a whole new look on the terrain. A way to blend WMOs in with the terrain. Things like on the edges of caves where there's no longer just rocks stuck into the terrain, you can actually see them blending in and it looks more natural. So that environment particularly brought all those abilities, all those new things together, along with a really cool concept for that kind of like marshy, jungly vibe. And for me, that was unexpected, right? Because we went in and we were doing this stuff. We were doing like, what's the most typical, like if you want to see the picture of our version of Asian art style, we're thinking, you know, those really cool dome mountains and mists and green bamboo forests and everything. The first one we did Jade Forest I thought was going to be my favorite right off the bat. I'm like, this is just amazing. It's the coolest thing we've done yet, right? And so excited about it. And then we got into Krasarang, and I started seeing this art come out, and we're looking at concepts, and we see the terrain come out, we see trees go in, and then vines, and all of a sudden I'm sitting back going like, this is by far and away the coolest thing that we've done so far.
Is it a strange thing to sort of regard your own work in that way? Because I can imagine that you're looking for different things than sort of the player would be looking at.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think, well, you have to, right? If you don't question that and just challenge yourself, and you don't get to the point, or the team doesn't challenge itself. For me, it's a little bit less, just because I really rely on the team and the people on the team to be the ones that are driving that vision forward. And when you have a team as talented as we do, it's easy to sit back and just kind of go like, wow, this stuff is amazing. Like, you guys are just, the stuff you're creating is just so cool. And I almost have to force myself to be a little bit more critical of things at time, just to make sure that we're always questioning and pushing and getting the best thing out of everyone that we can.
So if we take a step back from the environments and look at the Pandaria and what you've done with the art direction there, sort of you mentioned when we started this interview that you wanted to make them look ferocious, and I think everyone has a image of pandas as perhaps a little bit more friendly than that. Sort of how did you sort of shape the vision of the Pandaria in this expansion?
So I think it was striking that balance, right? Because when I talk about being respectful to a culture, I think the pandas are revered in many cultures that we were dealing with. So if we go out right off the bat and we go like, let's just make them these brutal, ferocious beasts or whatever, we're immediately crossing that line where people are going to start going like, but wait a minute, these guys eat bamboo, right? Like, they don't violently eat bamboo. They just sit back and they're fat, happy panda guys. Especially, I mean, Sam, when he created them, that was the whole philosophy, right? They just drink brew and hang out and have a good time. So at the same time, then all of a sudden you have that other problem, right? Which people go, well, I don't want to just play this happy-go-lucky. That's not what Warcraft's all about, some happy-go-lucky race that just hangs out. It's supposed to be about war and conflict. And then you get to the point where you have to choose which side you're on, so there's this whole moral element to it as well. Taking all those things into consideration, we started talking about like, well, so I'm neutral, I'm going through this initial experience, I get to 10, and I got to choose whether I'm going to be Horde or Alliance. At that point, do I want to do like, should we do more feral models for the Horde and lock people into that? And that just didn't feel right, because it felt like, well, I want to be Horde, but I don't want to be feral, so what's my option at that point? And what we ended up with is just more of like a general blend, right? So we have some skins that are more scarred up and feel a little bit more ferocious, and others that aren't. So as a player, you can really just choose how you want to portray yourself as a Pandaren.
You talked about the bamboo. Is there any sort of, I mean, you have bamboo all over the place here. Is that also something that you wanted to bring into the experience, that sort of, that, because it's so tied to the pandas, of course, in real life?
Right. Yeah, the funny thing actually about bamboo is that we did too much of it, right? Like, when we first started working on it, I think we did like, I don't know, 30 bamboo trees or something. And we get this whole environment going on, and it looks beautiful, right? There's grass and bamboo, and it looks exactly like what we wanted it to. And then we take a step back, and everyone's like, I see nothing but green and bamboo everywhere I look. And then we also had that problem where we want to strike the balance of familiar and something that you would expect to see, but also that feels Warcraft. So when we got to that point and we're like, we got to do something, all I see is green, and that afforded us the opportunity to then go like, well, okay, now we have traditional bamboos, we've seen these before, how are we going to take those and alter the colors and forms into something that we've never really seen before? So while it's inherent to the pandas and it's something we certainly like knew we wanted to do in the beginning, it developed into that kind of like taking on its own life and its own, you know, kind of unique role in each environment that you're going to run into.
Right, so one final art question. Obviously, the art team needs to be sort of ahead of the curve, always working on the next thing, and sort of before everyone else can sort of start working on it. So I know you can't talk about anything else, anything in the future, but sort of just the team moving on now. What's the feeling, and sort of is there hunger there still to do more?
Oh yeah, I mean, this universe is so rich. You know, you could pick any piece of it and just go off on it for years. So the team, we kind of reached this cadence where we're you know, finished with one thing and we're moving on to the next. And we're not that team that finishes a game, puts it in a box, and then takes 3 months off and parties, you know, and goes crazy.
Sadly not.
Yeah, right. We find little ways to party all the way through. and have a good time. But yeah, we're at a point now where we want to sort of change the way that we tell these stories. We don't want to just have this kind of start, middle, and end that we've done traditionally, and you've seen in Wrath of the Lich King and Cataclysm, where there's the baddie that you have to fight and kill, and eventually and you're done, and then it's just sort of like, okay, well, I'm going to end the game for a while until the next thing comes out. What we'd like to do visually is tell that story visually and in story-wise, tell it in such a way where it kind of flows through multiple expansions at a time. So having said that, we're at a point where we really want to start setting up some of these things to happen in the future. So as an art team, we're making decisions, not necessarily that it's just about what's coming up next, but what might be coming down the road 2 or 3 years from now, where we can have a separate little group of kind of working on that in the background while we do the patches and all the other stuff in the meantime.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time. It's really cool.
Right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.